It is another Light News Radio. Self-empowerment for the whole human being. The place where sick and tired is no longer of oneself. Featuring your host, Dr. Richard Jelisich, and co-host Deirdre Layton. Together, they finish each other's sentences, laugh, and take you from feeling hopeless to overjoyed to rock your world. And now, here are your hosts, Dr. J and Deirdre.
Welcome to Light News Radio, fellow light travelers, realms of self-empowerment. Light News Radio brings you spiritually conscious, awakened people who are walking their spiritual talk. I am Richard Jelisich, also known as Dr. J, your host, and my holder of the Happy Soul Award, co-host, is Deirdre Layton. Together we bring you grounded metaphysics, where the spiritual rubber hits the road. Pertinent teachings and real-life applications that result in a grounded spirituality. Here you will find an island of inner teachings, a place where you can take in the fresh air of increasing your direct inner connection. We are all about helping you to empower your life through understanding your true spiritual nature. The whole human being is the integration of the mind, body, and spirit. So come aboard our beam of light and enlighten your load as we travel the waves of knowledge and wisdom for the next hour. How you doing, Deirdre?
I'm doing very well. I'm relicking, I believe that is the correct word, in some warmer weather. But here in Canada, we have a four-letter word that we don't like to use, especially in August. But snow has officially landed in some parts of Alberta, and so
that's amazing.
I believe our summer will soon come to an end. It's absolutely crazy. Maybe we'll have what they call an Indian summer. Maybe we'll get summer in the last part of October or something. But currently it's quite cool. There's been lots of wind and whatnot, but it's been. I've had some crazy days. I've been so busy.
I've heard you say that before, Deirdre. You know, I humorously asked, well, you know, because Deirdre, you live in Calgary, Canada, and I live in San Diego. You know, I travel to Canada often. And I said, well, Deirdre, when does it snow in Calgary and in Alberta? And you, with a straight face, said it can snow almost any month of the year.
Oh,
that just blew me away.
I have seen snow every month of the year here. And I've lived here almost 30 years, and I guarantee you I have seen snow every month. So, yeah, it's quite amazing. But it's a beautiful place to live as well. So I can't really complain all that much. I'm close to the mountains, close to the prairies. I have the river at my back door. So, you know, it really is a very nice place to stay. And it was great for bringing up my kids and stuff, too. So, yeah, I really like it here. But we've been, really busy, Richard. You and I.
Oh, man. Yes. You know, and we say, what are we going to do and how are we going to get it all done? And then we go into this mode of, I know, let's prioritize.
Yeah, right.
And then we make a list. Only problem is then the list has subcategories that has subcategories that has other categories. And we're back to square one. It's like, okay, what really needs to get done here?
Yeah, I gave up on the list only because the more that I add to the list, it doesn't seem to have stuff come off. So I just go, okay, today is this. Today is this. Yeah. And move forward. But I'm really excited because I know that the energy around the world is really shifting. And I know that, listeners, you've probably felt it.
Hello?
Yes.
Hi, Janet. How are you?
We have Janet in the background. We haven't quite brought her on yet, but she's still there. But like I was saying, we have energy around the world that is really shifting. And
hello,
hello, Janet. We do have you here online, but we're just going to hold off for a second before we bring you out.
Can you hear us?
I think maybe Nesha might need to to try that connection again or something.
Nesha is like the Wizard of Oz. He's like the guy behind the curtain that you don't
Hello?
see. And there she is again. And
Yeah.
it could just be Janet
Hello?
from the astral dimension coming in. Maybe it's not a physical thing.
Well, he may have to hang up and call her back in a few minutes. So,
Oh my!
anyhow, we'll just carry on where we're at.
I'm sorry.
this
This is
is
really
my-
funny.
Yeah, it's my
You were
radio.
you were just saying that. You were just now saying, look at all the craziness that's going on in the world, and all of a sudden, from the astral dimension, hello.
It's funny because we have seen, as I was going to say, a big shift in things. And listeners,
Yeah.
you're going to probably tune into this as we're talking about it. But we have been really working hard at trying to bring to you lots of information. And what I have finally come to the conclusion is we have lots of information to bring, and we're just going to get it to you as we can, because we have issues like this with Skype. We have issues with other things that happen in our lives. And it's just, that's the way it is. So we'll just, we're just going to keep moving along and just find balance in everything that we do.
Isn't that something, Deirdre? We've been doing this radio program since the 14th of June, 2014. And I got to say, this is the first time that this has ever happened, Dee.
Well, no, but we've had other issues with guests that, we haven't been able to connect with, too. So, I think...
Well, I am back on. Back on.
Yeah,
here
well,
she is.
we'll bring you on in a moment, Janet, and we're so glad to have you for the show.
It's my honor.
Oh, good.
Okay.
So I just wanted to touch base that this past weekend, Richard was teaching in San Diego.
Yeah.
And I was teaching the same class with him jointly in Camrose. So we did our first over the airways level 3 with 2 groups in 2 countries. And we only had one glitch where Skype went down for about 10 minutes and I had to reboot everything. But other than that, I think it went really well.
This is part of the shift where I've been teaching healers training for 17 years doing energy work. And usually I would travel to a certain place. And this time what we did was I was teaching in San Diego, and we also had a group in Camrose, Alberta. And so Deirdre traveled up to Camrose to be with those students. And so we used the Skype platform, although we're considering moving to Zoom. And we were teaching simultaneously. Now, I know some of you might say, well, gee whiz, this is done all the time. Have you seen some of the colleges? Yes, but the difference is spiritual training is not like learning algorithms or poetry or something of that order. It's a whole different ball of wax. And so I think, and I know Deirdre was just saying that this was very, very well received. The fact that you were physically there, Deirdre, while the teaching was going on, they felt that there was support there and your guidance. So I think that, this is the wave of the future, and this is only going to grow.
I know. I agree 100%.
And in a manner of speaking, Dee, we kind of did this when we did that Skype flower reading back in May, where I was in San Diego and we did a flower reading to people in Canada. So I think, it's pointing more and more in that direction where we're just duplicating ourselves electronically. But still, Deirdre and I believe in teaching what's called the safety way. That means in spirituality, there's ways to grow that are very safe and there's ways that are unsafe. It'd be the same thing if you had an unscrupulous coach in the gym who had you work out in an unsafe manner, you'd injure yourself. So the same thing has to be true in spiritual training as well.
And that's what I found with it having, it's so nice to be able to have the two of us there, because the questions that we could rebound back and forth were just absolutely amazing. And the students, I think, got a lot out of it. So we'll be doing more courses over the next little while. And of course, you're going to be traveling up to Canada here in October. So
September.
What? Oh, that's right. Look at me messing up here already. But you are going to be here in September on on the
nice.
10th and 11th for the Group 15s, levels 16 and 17, which is hard to believe. That means 2 more weekends and they're done.
I know, isn't that something? It just blows me away.
Yeah.
It blows me away how much time is going past, and then how fast the students are actually learning too. So this is cool. We're doing really well, but it's going really quickly. And of course, Healers Training is expanding. We have a lot more people now that are interested in taking the training. We are formalizing it. We're establishing scientific verification to its validation. We are researching the ways to offer continuing education units for it. So there's a lot of really great things going on at Light News. And check our website at lightnews.org. lightnews.org. And Deirdre, did you also have something that you want to tell our listeners about a contest, or is that still going on?
Well, the contest is still going on, and what has happened is Bold Radio is expanding. And of course, we're here on Spreaker with Bold Radio Station, and we are really trying to promote all of the shows on all of the different stations on the Bold Radio network. And what we have is we are offering to those people that share our show, like our show, download our show, an opportunity to win a prize. And we actually do have one winner. If I can pull up my Facebook page, we had a winner just the other day that I announced. And I'm going to see if I can pull her up, because her name is Martha Archambault, and I've asked her on our page to get a hold of me at info@lightnews.org, and for liking and sharing our radio programs. She has won a 30-minute private session with Dr. Jelicic. So I think that that's amazing. I'm just so excited that we now have people that are really interested in what we're doing. And so let's keep that momentum going, let's keep it going, and let's keep sharing and have lots of fun with this. But that being said, it is time now for us to really consider who we have for a guest.
Oh, yeah.
And we have Dr. Reverend Janet Childs of San Jose, California. I have met Janet quite a few times. Richard has known her for a very long time. And why we've asked Janet onto the show today is because she really does empower first responders. And the magic of that is that she really takes to heart what she does when it comes to first responders and everything was related to working in crisis. And she is a founding member. She was a founding, Janet, you're going to have to correct me if I got wrong, but you're a founding member of the Center of Living and Dying, and has participated in growth of that organization, worked with thousands of individuals, groups, and professionals on the front line. But your key right now is education and focusing on crisis intervention counseling and the dynamics of loss, illness, crisis, and grief. So she's got this background of amazing, amazing stuff going on. So there we go. Janet, are you there?
I am right here.
Oh, we're so happy to have you on the program.
I am so happy to be here.
Well, great. We've been looking forward to this for a long time. I've known Janet for a few years now through Universal Church of the Master, where she's also an ordained minister. And Janet is one of these people where there's not a lot of moss grows under her feet. She's one of these people who's a doer, doesn't talk about it, but actually, goes forward and does. And I don't want to take up the whole program talking about what you were doing for the first responders in the 9/11 event that happened. But would you mind just starting out with a little bit of that kind of background so our listeners can get an idea of who you are?
Absolutely. And our center began 40 years. This is our 40th anniversary. I can't believe it. And I just have to honor Marianne Kelly, our founder, who I co-founded it with. And she is actually her second anniversary of her death, of her transition into spirit, was on August 22nd. So I feel like her energy and presence is really here with us.
Okay.
And,
Good.
when we started the center, we wanted to create a safe place for people going through grief, loss, death, trauma, to have a safe place to go. And when 9/11 happened, the very first thing we did out here in San Jose was called forth, our own first responders, because they were devastated, our firefighters, our police officers, our dispatchers, our paramedics, our nurses, our social workers, our therapists, our ministers. And we said, let's come together and support each other. And then a couple of months later, we actually went back to New York City, and we worked with firefighters, with police officers, and with dispatchers, and a little bit with paramedics, and some with the ER nurses that had to receive the patients that had survived that trauma.
Right.
And what we found was very, very powerful. We went to one firehouse, and it was amazing how they welcomed us, because we were very humble when we approached them, and we said, how can we support you? We're not going to come to your firehouse and assume that we know what you need. We're going to ask you what would be most helpful. And so we have on our Bay Area CISM team, which stands for Critical Incident Stress Management, we have an incredible group of firefighters that are trained in critical incident stress management, which is crisis response for responders. And we just sent them, and they were very much like servants. They helped with the funerals of the firefighters. They helped with preparing a meal at the firehouse. And they helped at Ground Zero, which was often called the pile back in those days. Because
the pile. Never heard of that.
The pile. Yes. It was called by responders the pile. So when you said, I'm going to the pile, that meant you were going to Ground Zero to work on recovering. Because at that point, there wasn't much chance of rescue. But what we wanted to do was recover. And actually, we found this to be very true after the Oklahoma City bombing, which happened many years before, that the power of recovering the bodies of people, brought a sense of completion, brought a sense of a way for us to honor our dead, and a way for us to bring meaning to this overwhelming, horrendous tragedy.
Yes.
So it was those kinds of ways that we helped. And then we had a group that had often been forgotten, were our 911 dispatchers.
Yes.
And so what we did with those dispatchers is, and this was so powerful, is we actually got together with a couple of other teams and with a wonderful group called 911 Cares, and we provided donations, all by donations, a reception for them. And so we sent them all a little card, and right across from one police plaza is this very sophisticated, high-class hotel. They donated their huge conference rooms and their ballroom. They donated the food for the hors d'oeuvres, for the reception. And we had a reception. And we thought, we'll be lucky if we get 100, maybe 200 people.
Yeah.
We had 625.
Oh, wow.
My goodness,
They all
that's
came.
amazing.
And they came to me and they said, Janet, because I teach dispatchers on critical incident stress management, some of them had actually recognized me, and they said, Janet, we have not been able to get together since 9/11 happened with our other dispatchers. So what we did after that reception, and there were no political people there, the mayor wasn't there wasn't TV
great.
cameras, and it was just a chance for them to commune with each other and tell each other stories that they had gone through on that fateful day. Now, the power of that is they got a chance to tend and befriend. They got a chance to come together and bring some healing to each other rather than deal with the stress and isolation. Now, the power of that was we determined that we needed to do some critical incident stress diffusings. And so for the next 3 days, our hotel said, we'll set you up with conference rooms and you just go for it. And there were about 7 of us, and we would just do small groups or one-with-one diffusings, and we did that for the next 3 days. And I heard some of the most powerful stories. One dispatcher shared with me that her own husband, who was a police officer, had died in the 9/11 incident. And she said, Janet, I heard from one of my RPs, which is what they term callers. That's what they call callers, the reporting party, the person that calls in from the public for help. And she said, this woman said, please tell my husband that I love him. I know I will not get out of here alive. So she made the dispatcher promise, will you please, give my husband that message, that I love him and I will love him forever.
Wow.
The power of that. The power of that. And she's given me permission to share this story.
It's hard to fathom, and that's why I wanted you to start off our program today with, a lot of people hear about first responders, and it's kind of in our mind, but it's kind of like, when we start out with spirituality, we have a kind of a vague understanding, unless you're really in the trenches, whether you're in your own meditations and revealing your spirituality to yourself, or if you're actually out there with the people who did respond on day 1 of 9/11, and then all of the aftermath, and like you said, burials and funerals and memorials and things where the rubber really hits the road. And that's why, Deirdre and I were so anxious to have you on our program, because we, to talk about ourselves is just, we want to have people on a program who walk their spiritual talk. And sincerely, Deirdre and I surely feel that you are that.
Well, I'm honored to be in the company of both of you.
Well, thank you. I wanted to let our listeners know that we do have live call-ins. And if there is anyone that has a question and would like to call in and speak to Janet or ask Janet anything along those lines, that you most certainly can do that. And the number is 1-248-629-0921, and we are speaking with Reverend Dr. Janet Childs today on the empowering first responders. And Janet, I wanted to ask you, because when I spoke with you back in, I guess it was May of this year, we were talking about stress and the names that are given to disorders instead of illnesses. And I just wanted to ask you if you could share your belief a little bit about how we treat and what we can do to help not label these types of things.
Beautiful. Thank you. Because our view on our team and at our center is that, stress is our natural response to any change or loss, our natural response. And that it actually is an empowering thing if we accept it and flow with it. And so instead of using the term post-traumatic stress disorder, our team is now advocating, and we've worked with several areas of the military and first responders to partner with us in this, to call it post-traumatic stress injury instead of post-traumatic stress disorder. Because if you hear you have a disorder, that disempowers you. You feel like you're stuck with it for life. But if you have an injury, the injury means it's something we can heal from. And I'll just use an example. If I were to say Richard broke his arm, we would take Richard to the hospital, get a cast on his arm, and then we would write silly jokes on the cast. But every time we looked at Richard, we would see the broken arm. With a broken heart, you don't see the broken heart. And what happens is that because it's an invisible thing, we don't treat it like we would a broken arm. We would never think of ignoring a broken arm, yet we ignore a broken heart all of the time. And the body, and I'm an old ER nurse, so just to get nursey on you here for a moment, the body treats emotional trauma exactly like it does physical injury. So when we are in a physical injury, we attend to that immediately. But when we have emotional trauma, our body treats it exactly the same. So we need to respond to it. We need to respond to it in a
good
proactive way and acknowledge it. And when we acknowledge it, it literally boosts our immune system. When we don't acknowledge it and we deny it or minimize it, it depresses our immune system.
Wow.
So when I share this with responders who are tough and can handle it all and respond to other people's crises, when they see that it's a physiological dynamic, it takes some of the stigma off of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Because we process stress through our five senses. So if we realize it doesn't matter how tough or how strong or how intelligent or how spiritual we are, we're intaking that stress through our five senses.
Right.
And how we do our job very well as a spiritual healer, as a grief counselor, as a first responder, is we take in all of the information we need to be able to respond. So, of course, we're going to be imprinted with the trauma.
Mm-hmm. And I've known that myself, my own life, when I've had emotional stress, sometimes I get really tired and I think, well, why am I tired? I haven't really done anything. And yet, like you say, the emotions play out in a way that the body responds and says, okay, you need some downtime. You need some recapitulation or recharging time. So, there's so much to that. I have dear friends who lived in Calgary, and they're both police officers, and they talked about how different officers handle the stress. And, of course, some of them have a few beers and they drink, or some of them, but they don't really actually address the stress rather than suppress or just do things to kind of gloss over, I'd like to say. So, your point is extremely well taken.
And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just want to address the public safety and the law enforcement culture perpetuates this minimization and denial on a daily basis. They are trained from academy on to be tough.
Yeah.
And that's why what works best and why we use so many responders to work with responders after 9/11 is what works best is to have another responder supporting you because they understand that culture. And they understand the daily stressors you go through as a police officer or a firefighter, or a dispatcher or a paramedic. And they have that powerful ability to be able to immediately understand. So there's not a lot of education that has to take place. They've already got it.
Well, and by minimizing the stress, it actually accelerates the people who are leaving the force for one reason or another who no longer can function because they've never done anything about the stress.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And what happens is it creates what we call a backpack of cumulative stress.
Oh, right.
And the backpack, the backpack can be very damaging because if you have a seasoned officer, let's say a police officer, and in fact, unfortunately, in our own community, we have had the suicide of a beloved officer that his backpack got too full.
Yeah.
And he didn't feel safe enough to reach out for support.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. How can we as individuals, look to help and support these people without also crossing over that fine line, because I'm sure that some of them are very close knit, but also very they like to keep it very personal.
Oh, like a brotherhood or a sister, like a fraternity or a sorority, that kind of thing, where you keep things
They are
inside.
absolutely a fraternity. Yes.
But also, because of legalities and things, they can't be talking to a lot of regular people, I guess you could call us, about some of this stuff too, right? I mean, so how can people reach out and support?
That's a beautiful question, Deirdre, and I would thank you for asking that question because I think there are several ways we can do it. One is by acknowledging their job and acknowledging that if we are not a responder, and I do this every time. I just did a dispatch class late last week, and I said, I am not a 911 dispatcher. I have no clue. But what I'm going to do is support you in supporting each other. And I'm going to be your backup singer. And what I mean by your backup singer is I'm going to support you on a daily basis in my community when there is struggles with funding or getting staffing for our police, fire, dispatch, or paramedics, I'm going to be an advocate for you in the community. I'm going to be an advocate for you in the ways that work for you, that empower you to be that best support for each other. And I'm going to give you a safe place today in this classroom to be able to talk about what's been in your backpack. We have kind of a joke on our team. We call, instead of what's in your wallet, we say, what's in your backpack? And you know, it's so funny because I went to Australia with Marianne, and we taught in 3 different cities in Australia, and we had the privilege of being with the original peoples, which is what we call the Aboriginal people, but what they call the original peoples of Australia. And we spent some time with them, and they said, Janet, we understand the Heart Hotel. And I'll just tell you really quickly, the Heart Hotel was given to me by a client, an elderly woman who was homeless, who had gone through many losses. And she said, Janet, my heart's like a hotel, and everybody I love has a room in my Heart Hotel.
Oh.
When someone dies or goes away from me, nobody can take their room in my Heart Hotel.
True.
And I'm a little bit like Mrs. Winchester. I can add on new rooms as I meet new people to love. And she was referring to the Winchester Mystery House. And she said, Janet, if you're nice to me, you'll get a little room on the 2nd floor. And anyway, she was incredible. So I said, well, what do you do with those empty rooms? And she said, I fill them up with love and memories that even death cannot take away. I fill them up with love and memories that even death cannot take away. And so she gave me the model for stress and grief process. You let go of the pain and the trauma, but you keep the love and the memories and the meaning. And it's like a sifting process. So we talked about the Heart Hotel. The Aboriginal folks said, we get that totally, but we don't understand the backpack. And I said, well, let me explain. You know, I was trying to push it. I said, you've got to understand the backpack. And this one who was a police officer said, well, Janet, let me tell you how we process what we do. So we believe in the dream time. Everything in the dream time is as real as waking time, especially when we go on walkabout. In dream time, when we enter dream time, we clear the day. So if there's any unfinished business from the day, any sadness, any unspoken anger, any unresolved interaction, we clear it before we go into the dream time because we have to go into there pure. When we complete dream time, and in the morning we gather around the campfire again, and we see if is there any wisdom or any issue that came from the dream time that we need to resolve before we start our waking day.
Wow.
So they have 2 times in their day that they attend to their unfinished business. So they truly don't get the concept of the backpack.
No, well, they
Now,
don't need it.
Well, to get the average person who is a let's say in the police department, to get them to that place where they feel comfortable to even deal with that. You know, I did a program to the Calgary and the Edmonton police departments about 3-4 years ago, which was using meditation and psychoacoustics in PTSD. We were using PTSD as a term then. And, you know, some of these people are bomb techs, you know, and some of them are snipers. And then day 2 of this 3-day program, I mentioned the word chakras, and I instantly looked at the ceiling, and they wondered what I was doing. I said, oh, I used the word chakras. I was just looking to see if there was a crack starting in the ceiling because I used a metaphysical term.
I love it.
And so they were very good natured about it. But you know, there's ways that you have to approach the average person in order to deal with this. So, for an example, instead of saying perhaps metaphysical breathing or pranayama, I might use a term like tactical breathing.
There you go. Perfect.
Tactical breathing, but it accomplished the same goal. So I think, you know, embedded within what you do, perhaps, you know, you as Janet are very articulate in the way you choose to reach people who really need the help, but their own background precludes them from just saying, yep, I messed up. I could use some help. I don't know how to deal with my stress.
Exactly. And it's so funny, Richard, that you should say that because I was taught by an old SWAT sergeant this many years ago. He said, Janet, he said, you have all these breathing techniques. He said, you call them tactical breathing. And he said, but I've got tactical breathing that we use in the SWAT team because he said, we can't remember all that. So he said, we call it 4x4. And literally, it's 4 breaths in. I mean, it's 4 counts in. So inhale for 4 counts. You hold it for 4 counts. And then you exhale for 4 counts. 4 by 4. Very easy to remember. And I said, I'm using that from now on. Yes. Oh, my goodness.
That is yogic breathing.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect.
It really is. It is.
And he said, if you want to get energized, you breathe out through your mouth. And if you want to get relaxed, you breathe out through your nose. And he said, our men, our officers our people can pick that up right away. And 4 by 4, we use it when we're getting ready, to do a tactical response. And he said it works great. So I'm keeping 4 by 4.
Well, I want to just put a plug in here to our listeners out there that you are listening to Reverend Dr. Janet Childs here on our Light News Radio here on Spreaker Radio. Of course, we're recording this live, and you can download, share, or listen again at any time by going to Spreaker Radio or Spreaker.com/user/Bold Radio Station. And of course, you can find Light News in the network there to listen to this program or any other programs that we do. We also would encourage you to visit the website, www.lightnews.org. And if you so feel inclined to call us or email us, you can email me at info@lightnews.org if you're interested on being on the show. And you can also email me any of those hard questions that you may have that you don't want to ask live on air. But then if you feel gutsy and you feel like you can talk with us on air live, you can call us at 1-248-629-0921, and we would love to fend your questions. And now back to Janet and this
we like interview. And we like the really hard questions too, because those are the ones worth talking about.
Absolutely, and I would invite our listeners to think of themselves as responders. If you are a teacher, if you are a nurse or a healthcare provider, if you are a social worker, if you are a therapist, if you are a minister, if you are working with human beings in any way, you are a responder. And so don't only think of, yourself as a responder if you're just an emergency responder on the front lines. Many of us, all responders, and all of us can use these same principles. And, of course, I think we're trained, in all of our response professions to think of ourselves as we're the capable ones that take care of other people. Mm-hmm. And yet we have a concept at our center called the infinity of giving and receiving. If we are not able to receive the help and healing, we are not going to be able to give. And I'll just give you a poignant example that just happened yesterday. I was at a staff meeting at our wonderful Bill Wilson Center for Living with Dying program, and I shared the experience of speaking at the funeral of this police officer who had died by suicide. And I said, I was fine. I was, giving my talk, and I was, had lit the candle with the family and smiling to the officers, and I sat down. And in police funerals, there is an incredible ceremonial piece. There are many ceremonial pieces, but this one is particularly moving. And it's what they call the end of watch call. And it's where the dispatcher rings down and calls her officer, like she's calling her officer on the radio.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
With the radio call signs. It is the most powerfully poignant. And so she calls, Adam 3-6, call dispatch. This is calling for Adam 3-6. And then Adam 3-6 is not responding. And then she says, Adam 3-6, end of watch. And then she gives the date of his death. May you rest in God's hands.
Wow.
I mean, it is the most powerful thing you have ever heard. At that point, I lost it. I mean,
I hope Yeah, I hope our listeners will repeatedly listen to this particular program because, Deirdre and I have always been so interested in ground level, rubber hits the road spirituality. Deirdre and I have very little regard for the airy fairy tinfoil hat stuff because we just, well, if you belong to the Flat Earth Society, that's fine, but we're really living in an age of urgency where
Yes.
we're really wise to accept the spiritual power that is awakening within us. And there's so many
Absolutely.
angels like yourself that are working at the ground level, the real serious, what I call no shit level spirituality, which is so needed. So this is the very type of people we want on our program, so that people can see that a grounded spirituality is far more effective than if you only have a vague awareness of what the teachers call the true self.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I just would like to remind both of you that when you're talking about tinfoil, always remember to put the shiny side out.
Ah. That's an important safety tip, listeners.
Absolutely.
Oh, very well said.
I love it. It's interesting, because as we go through all of our radio shows, we take a moment during the show to ask our guests to, tell the listeners how to reach them, and we ask them to, possibly share a pointer. But, I'm listening to this show today, and I am going to ask you to share how people can reach out to you. But you have given so many tools just in this brief half hour that we've had.
Right.
The breath, the backpack, so many tools. So listeners, please do listen again to this recording if you've been listening now. And, we don't mind you taking notes. We don't mind you downloading this and saving it on your iPhone or your Android for later.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But,
Absolutely. And if I could leave with like 4 steps that we've kind of come up with.
Oh,
sure.
yes,
Acknowledge, express, act, and reconnect. And what we mean by that is acknowledge your stress. Do not deny it. Do not do comparison stress shopping. Don't minimize it. Acknowledge it. Give it its full honor. Give it its full bearing witness to. Then express it. Express the details of what's hitting you the hardest about this stress. When we get down to the details, we're getting that pain from the inside to the outside. And then do an action step. I mean, that's the power of this police funeral that we had for this young police officer who died. We had an action step which brought everyone together, and we were able to mourn and grieve together and also claim the good memories and the sweet memories. Mm-hmm. And then reconnect to what is good in your life. Many times I think what happens is that we forget to reconnect even in the midst of our pain and tragedy. There is still goodness. I worked with a Katrina survivor who was also a 911 dispatcher. I kind of adopted her after Hurricane Katrina, a wonderful woman. And she said, Janet, I'm so brokenhearted. She lived in a FEMA trailer. And she said, my mother had given me a beloved rosary from my grandmother, and I can't find it. It was lost in the hurricane. It was lost in the flood. And so what I did was I went to a local church, and I said, can I get a specially blessed rosary? And I picked her favorite color, and I sent it to her. It was my action step to do for her. When she got the rosary, she said, I now feel like I have an anchor to stay alive and to be in this life. Now, that's powerful. It wasn't anything that I did that was big, but it was hearing her. And what it moved in me was to do an action step, because I can't fix it. I can't make it better. I can't bring back her ancestral rosary. But what I can do is say, I hear you. I honor you. Let me offer you this that is filled with energy and love for you.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. That's amazing.
So,
that
just
really
so very,
amazing.
Yeah, just so very powerful, Janet, the grasp that you have. When our listeners would first encounter Janet, let's say in a church setting, they might see her with a guitar singing a lovely song that she's made up, and you wouldn't realize that this person has been on the front trenches, if you like, of humanity, the angel of mercy that really gets in there and rolls up the sleeves. And we just admire what you do so much because Deirdre and I, like I say, we want people on this program who walk their talk. Now, Deirdre's going to ask you, in what way can people get a hold of you if they want to get in touch with you?
Absolutely. Let me give you my phone number. Let me give you my email that I check. I try to check it at least every day or every couple of days. And I'm going to give you my work email because that's easy for me to get to. So my phone number is 408-278-2512. And my email is jchilds@bwcmail.org. And I'll spell that out for you. It's JCHILDS at BWC, for Bill Wilson Center, mail, MAIL.org. And I welcome any contact. And if you would like written information that backs up of some of what we've talked about, I'd be glad to email it to you. I've written many articles over the years, and I would be glad to share that information.
Can they find some of this information on the website?
They can, and in fact, we have a website for Critical Incident that's being developed by our wonderful West Valley College folks. And I don't know the name because it changed. It was criticalincident.net, and now it's changed. The website name has changed, and that's updated with a lot of this information.
But if they went to the billwilsoncenter.org, they would be able to...
they would get some information. Yes,
good.
They would get some information. But have them email me directly because I can give them much more.
Yeah.
Okay. And listeners, if you ever lose any of that information, just get a hold of us at lightnews.org or Deirdre's email at info@lightnews.org. And we're happy to connect you with Reverend Dr. Janet Childs.
Yes. Thank you, Janet, so much for being on our radio show today. I look forward to seeing you when I come down next. And
I can.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would love that. And I want to leave a parting thing to remember to all of our listeners out there, you make a difference just by your presence. We have worked with over 1,500,000 people at the Center for Living with Dying. We have heard the thank you about you. So you may not know it, you may not hear that thank you, but just your willingness to be present in the moment of trauma brings healing, brings comfort, and brings hope. So remember that and hold that in your heart.
Well, thank you so much, Janet. Just so profound and have such a lovely half hour. It all goes too fast, but it was just such a delight to have you on our program. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, it was amazing. Just as Janet was signing off there, it made me think of an auto accident that I witnessed a few years back here in
remember that.
Calgary. I think I phoned you right afterwards, and I remember getting this young gal out of the car and sitting on the side of the road with her, and then her father shows up, and, he kind of took over. And it was about a year later, I received a phone call from her that she had held on to my phone number and that she just felt it was time for her to phone and say thank you. And I had, not even thought about it until just now. So, yes, listeners, the smallest things really do make a big difference in the world. It's like going out in the morning. We talked last Wednesday, going out in the morning and just giving someone a smile can change their whole day.
Because I know there's a lot of times we don't know what to do, like in Deirdre's situation where she just acted and went over and helped that person. But you don't worry about whether you know exactly what to do. It's very important that you're there and that you're lending your heart in support to that person or those people.
That's right. Wow. Yeah,
I know you're gonna jump into the calendar, Hundi.
Well, no, I'm still in the show. It was very touching, and so I'm still very much in the show. But I do need to go into the calendar and just let people know that right now Dr. Jelicic is in San Diego, and we are got lots of stuff on the go, but he will be leaving and flying into San Jose, California to teach his San Diego group, and they are taking levels 8 and 9, I believe, this coming weekend. Yes. And then he'll be back in San Diego for the first, as he will be doing flower readings at the Terra Healing Center there in San Diego. And you can get a hold of Sandra Bushman at the Terra Healing Center to make sure that you have a spot for that, or visit our website, www.lightnews.org, where you can find out all the information on upcoming flower readings. Dr. Jolicic will be unavailable this weekend as his daughter gets married.
Next weekend,
and,
September 3rd.
Yeah, on the 3rd. And I'm so excited for you and them, so that will be nice.
Well, that's going to be a first, Deirdre, because not only do I walk my daughter down the aisle, but then I'm going to be doing the ceremony. So that's a very unique situation to be in.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. That's great. That is really great. And then you're going to be coming to Canada around the 8th or 9th of September, because you have our group 15 doing their levels 16 and 17. You'll probably, we're not sure how this is going to work, but you'll probably be heading back shortly after that to San Diego, because you need to get ready for our full, do you hear that, listeners? We are sold out for our Sedona trip, and that's going to be amazing. So you can look forward to details coming here soon for next year's journey of the Sacred Heart that we will be doing.
Meditation retreat. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a meditation retreat, and next year will be our 3rd.
I know. Can you believe that? 3 years in a row.
I know.
So I also wanted to point out that the 2nd and 4th Mondays of the month in Calgary, we have our healers training that is free to anyone that wants to come out and get on a table and
free energy work.
Receive some free energy work. Balancing of the chakras, some intuitive readings. It's a lot of fun, and you're welcome to come and join us at Family Matters in Northeast Calgary between 7 and 9 p.m. on the 2nd and 4th Monday evenings of the month. But you have a group of people getting together that will be doing the same in San Diego.
Right. Part of the work is to offer free energy balancing to the public, and it's a way that the students and the graduates can practice what they do. And so we've been doing this in Canada for years now on the 2nd and 4th Monday of every month at Families Matter in Northwest Calgary. So now we're going to start it up in September. Here in San Diego will probably be the 1st and 3rd Thursday of every month, although I'll be sending out information very soon to that effect. And this is our way of having our students and graduates practice, but it's also a way of helping the public get some free healing and also exposure as to what spiritual healing really is.
And we're giving back to the community.
That's right.
It's all about giving back. Yeah. We have new classes coming up. The 1st of October will be an advanced flower reading class for graduates we will be holding it in Calgary, but any graduate anywhere in North America can Skype in for this class. There is also going to be on the 2nd of October a one-day, full-day workshop on learning how to read tarot cards. We call it the Art of Tarot. Yep. And again, that will be offered in Calgary, but anyone interested in joining in can Skype in or possibly Zoom in, depending on if we get ourselves up and organized for that.
I have 100% success rate in being able to teach tarot to people in one day. So if you want to have a great class, learn how to do tarot in a loving, thorough, and safe way, just get a hold of us and come on down on the 2nd of October.
And on the 8th of October is our first ever teachers training class for Dr. Jelisich graduates. So please contact me if you are interested, if you are a graduate of the program and interested on taking that. On the 29th of October, we will be offering a mediumship class, learning to what mediumship is, how it works, and you will be teaching billet reading. So that will also be available to anyone who has done some spiritual practice and are advanced Reiki practitioners or something along the lines that they have a grounded understanding of what spiritual practice is. And you can get a hold of me. All these events will be going up on our Light News website here within the next day or so. And on Sunday, October 30th, we are hosting a public event, Doors to Higher Consciousness, and it's discourse and discussions with Dr. Jelisich. It's a full day from 10 till 4 p.m. We will have snacks and whatnot, but this event, we are opening it up to whoever wants to come and be a part of it, and we're going to offer this full day event for well, maybe I shouldn't say, but we were thinking about $25. So there, it's out there, universe. And it'll also be one that we're hoping people can Skype in to attend. So we are really excited about all of these, including our journeys that are coming up for 2017, the Costa Rica trip to Blue Spirit Resort.
Yep,
with
Kundalini Yoga. Yep, Kundalini Yoga and the chakras, and I will be teaching chakras, and she will be teaching Kundalini Yoga at the Blue Spirit Retreat in Costa Rica, one of the top 5 yoga destinations on the planet.
Yes, and then we are offering Spirit of the Plant Medicine Conference in June of 2017 in Calgary, and of course our Sedona Retreat again, September 21st through 26th. In 2017 at the Butterfly Garden Inn, and I'm excited because we just keep growing and going and growing and going. I guess next Wednesday will be you and I, as we always do have our little Wednesday shows for the half hour.
That'll be when, Deirdre? September 7th?
Yes, it will be September 7th because the 31st is the 5th Sunday of the month, and there are no shows on the
5th Wednesday of the month.
Wednesday of the month. I know, I'm looking at my calendar, and I'm looking at all the dates and stuff going on, so I don't know where Sunday came from. A nice Freudian slip.
That's okay.
Our September 14th show, though, will be Paula Jackson, and I'm really looking forward to that. Because she is the executive medical consultant and just finished some clinical trials on multiple sclerosis and diagnosis and energy work and all kinds of wonderful stuff.
And the effects of Reiki on multiple sclerosis, and she's just finished all of that study. So we're going to be one of the first to interview her anywhere on the planet for her work, and this is huge because it's being scientifically recognized as an effective healing technique.
I'm just so excited that we can have her on the show. We had planned to have her on earlier in the year, but due to some legalities of her getting everything finished, we had to bump her show. So
we had to postpone. Yeah,
and that's fine. These things happen. So listeners, please download, share, go to our website, www.lightnews.org, visit our Facebook page, and you too can have a chance to win a private session with Dr. Jelisich. Or, if you call in next week but on the 7th on Wednesday, maybe you could have even just a little reading.
Mini reading, absolutely. Yeah. Deirdre and I both love doing that. So you guys are missing out if you're not calling in. Okay.
We are.
So I'll take it from here. Well, as usual, Deirdre has a whole raft of things to go through in the calendar. There's so much. And, of course, we have a great website, lightnews.org, that you can look up the calendar month to month of where I'm doing and being and going. There's so much that we have going on. As Deirdre usually says, we got a lot on the go. And we're so grateful to our guest today, Reverend Dr. Janet Childs. What a wealth of knowledge and compassion she is. So please, check out her contact information. And, of course, we are always so grateful to you, dear listeners, and thank you so much for listening to Light News Radio. I'm your host, Dr. J, and my happy soul co-host is Deirdre. And so we just want you to be the most awakened, enlightened, empowered, where fear and doubt are just fleeing from you daily so that you're living a self-realized, self-aware life. And as always, our dear listeners, may the principles of harmlessness and compassion be the ever-present, ever-constant guide of your every intention, your every thought, and of your every action. And so it is, and so it shall be. It is done. Stay attuned, everyone.
Thank you for joining Light News Radio, where you are self-empowered for your whole being. Connect with us at www.lightnews.org.